Mikko, you have turned Xolo, which is a business admin company, from a cash-burning VC-funded business to profitable self-sustaining business within a year.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday, when we met, I learned that I would call you a principles-driven leader.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously your principles are working, looking at the results you have been able to deliver. So we're definitely going to talk about them. But before we go into the principles, I think it would be really interesting to know, like, what is the business environment you grew up in,
Mm-hmm.
and what made you the leader you are today? Also talking about the influences that have inspired you.
Yeah. Well, I think we have to go back in time a little bit to get to that point. But maybe the starting point was in the 1980s. My dad actually bought the first Apple Macintosh, and that was sold after that. So bit of a nerd, maybe. But in any case, so after that, I've been growing around computers and being interested in them. And I started my career in design. So worked in graphic design and set up my first company when I was 21. And then maybe the key point all along was that I was growing in a very international environment. So a lot of nationalities, a lot of international influences in high school. In my studies, I studied architecture, and then also throughout my life. So I sort of, when during the 1980s they were setting up European Union and opening the borders, I was thinking that okay, now this is going to be big. So, and this is exactly what Europe needs. So I think the starting point was in many ways that technology and international environment were sort of two drivers for me. And when I studied architecture, I set up my second company, which was focused on urbanism. That was, by the way, the most fun job I've ever had. So, and the idea was that it was like a boutique consultancy. And we were sort of scanning with a couple of friends things that were sort of burning issues in Finland. And then we came up with creative solutions to them. One example was, for example, that there was a lot of news about littering. And we were thinking that what if the trash bins could thank you? So then we developed the talking trash bin. And we used actually old Nokia phones as the technology in that one. So in the end, Nokia phones ended up in trash anyway. So, but that was like a super fun project. So we lined up like celebrities in different domains, and they were saying thank you, the trash bins. So there was these kind of ideas that we were developing, and we had a long list of them. And when I graduated from the architecture school, so I did one competition and then ended up setting up third company, so which was a startup working in banking. So I think that's basically the background of where I've been coming from.
All right. So the technology, talking trash bins. Well, that's pretty revolutionary. Actually, really funny. Anyway, so what is Xolo today? Like, what is the scope of a business? The countries you operate in, how many people?
Yeah.
Because I do know that you have a fairly scattered and international team. Tell me a little bit about the business.
Yeah. So we are the leading solopreneur SaaS in Europe. So it's basically a pretty fragmented market, offering business admin services for this particular customer base. There's 40 million self-employed in Europe alone. And we had from the get-go, again, like this vision of being international, which has been my driving force from the get-go. So as of today, we are the only one who can do this in multiple countries. And as of today, we are in 4 European countries. And I would say that for me, a year from now, we'll be in 4 more at least. So that's the ambition. So becoming basically a pan-European platform for all the freelancers and solopreneurs out there.
All right. You started as a head of product there quite many years ago. And about 2 years ago, you became the CEO.
Yeah.
Now, let's now dive into your leadership principles. Now, of course, you knew the business and you knew the people and you knew the potential, but also the sort of the weak points of the business.
Mm-hmm.
As a leader, when you start pivoting a business or like really trying to transform it and change the direction from cash burning to profitable, what are the kind of the non-negotiables for you? Like, you look into at first, and what is less important? So, because you said that you are very technology driven, but then again, you need people to create the technology. So I'm just like, trying to understand how you balancing the fact that it's people who make the business and the technology that actually enables the scaling and growth.
Yeah. Well, when I started as CEO, there was actually quite a few things that I had already figured out beforehand what I wanted to do. So maybe one starting point was that I completely rebuilt the management team. So we had, at that time, experienced people in the management team coming from big logo companies, Googles and whatnot, which was great. But I noticed from the get-go that we're gonna need now to do radical changes, and I actually need people who have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, something to prove. And so I completely rebuilt the team, and I actually insourced quite a few people to the team from the existing company because I saw that there was many people who had a lot of potential, and of course, the most importantly, they knew the product inside out and our customer base, which was very important. So I think that was sort of one starting point, that I need people who had the drive to go through what was coming. And I knew it's going to hurt a little bit, basically the next steps. But then another sort of fundamental thing was that as we were burning cash quite a lot, and majority of it was going to customer acquisition. So I saw that, okay, this is a trajectory we have to change, and we actually have to become sustainable in customer acquisition. So I probably, it wasn't the first day, but like first week maybe, I made a decision that we're gonna stop all digital marketing. So altogether, which had been the number one thing, how we were acquiring customers so far. And we have to figure out how to do this organically. So, and as I'm coming from product background, and I'm a firm believer in technology, so I saw that we actually have to solve this through the product and not by paying Meta or Google millions of euros to actually get the customers in. So we started to sort of think, I would say actually everything in the company through the product. So that was the thinking: how we acquire customers, how do we retain customers, how do we serve them in the best possible way. And I started to sort of bring more and more sort of this product thinking in every single discussion, every single presentation I did. And it was always discussing what's next with the product. So,
all right, you said people with a chip on their shoulder, something to prove. So I assume that they are also younger people who have not done that before.
Yeah.
So they really had the appetite to learn.
Exactly.
What do you think about, I mean, when you are learning, the learning process is, I think the most efficient one is doing failures and learning from them. I heard yesterday that you kind of have an approach which is a quarterly based assumptions.
Yeah.
And the assumptions are basically your narrative.
Yeah.
And you lead through the narrative and the narrative, if the assumptions are right, they deliver the numbers or don't.
Yeah.
I think what was also interesting is that what, if I got it right, is that the way you now kind of interact with your board, you change it quite radically. Like, how you present things and how they give you the time or gave you the time to change the business.
Yeah. Well, maybe one more comment on the transformation that was needed. It was basically sort of instilling courage to the team. And how to do that is that there's no failures, there's only learnings. So if people are afraid of failure, then there's no progress and then everything just grinds to a halt. So nobody's has the courage to do anything. So sort of my main point was that be bold and try out things. And the key thing is we move fast and we learn fast. And if it fails, then just scrap it. It's a learning. It's not a failure. And this was also basically coming then to the narrative. So yes, you can promise to the board or whoever numbers, and making millions in Excel is a usual exercise for all the startups. But I think the key point was that the numbers follow when you have actually a direction and when you have a story that you want to tell. And I think I'm sort of very into stories overall, because I believe that that's the best way to describe what you want to do. But if you sort of tell the story, then it actually works in all directions. It works to the team. They can choose that if they want to be part of it, and if they believe in the story, that's of course essential. And then, then also telling the board that this is what we're going to try out, and this is the story, this direction we're going into, and the numbers will follow. And the good thing was that they did. So
I'm just wondering, now you said that it's not just the failure. I think what you implicitly said is that the way you lead, there is a default trust. At the end of the day, if the failure is seen as a learning process, there are no trust issues.
Yeah.
To begin with. I think that's really, really interesting. But tell me about the narrative and the assumptions, because obviously there were assumptions that proved to be absolutely right. And then I guess you have learned something, which is like not everything has been exactly didn't go according to the plan, if the plan is the assumption. So I was just wondering, what kind of assumptions you made, and tell me a few examples of assumptions gone right, and assumptions that, when you started to validate, you just realized that, this is not the thing we have to go for.
Well, I think one key assumption which proved to be right was that we have to understand the customers much better, and who are the people who really need this. And of course, with our service, everyone sort of needs it, but who needs it most? And finding those pockets of customers and who really are big fans of the service and actually want to tell their peers also about it. This is actually a funny story regarding this one, because when I started at Xolo, and we have this channel where the Net Promoter Score comments come in. So I went and asked, so is it so that we filter only the 9s and 10s here, or what's going on here? But the thing was that we had super happy customers, but we had to find the people who were the true fans. So that was one key assumption, and that's actually was sort of one of the key points also that we did, that we found those biggest fans and we made them affiliates, and they started to do the customer acquisition for us. And now actually majority of customers are coming through referrals, affiliates. So that was one of those assumptions that worked. one thing then that we also started to build was that we also saw that as solopreneurs are by definition alone, so they're doing everything on their own. So they actually need help, and they actually need people around them. So we had this idea that maybe we start connecting our customers with each other. So and open up basically the customer base. Of course, you can choose if you want to be part of it, but so you can find other solopreneurs on the platform. And we also had a monetization strategy for this, that if they set up a business together, and then we'll take a cut out of it. But then we saw pretty fast that, okay, this is not a place we want to monetize, but we just want to help them out. So that was one assumption that didn't go as planned, but in the end, actually, it became pretty valuable part of the service.
Now, what you've done there is actually build a network of connections between your customers. But I think it's also interesting what I learned yesterday, and I think it was absolutely brilliant, was that you also kind of building a network of competitors. I'm not sure whether that's the right way to describe it, but of course, like being technology-enabled business, you need the best tech people, and they need to be happy, and they need to make sure that this is the cause I want to contribute to. And obviously, these guys, the best ones, they are pretty sought after resource.
Yes.
So how do you make sure that people know that you are the best place for them?
Yeah, I think that's the key point, not only with engineers, but everyone else as well, that they actually have to believe in the mission and believe that this company is the right environment for them. So I had been working very closely with our head of engineering, and she had a very good approach on working with the engineers in a way that exactly like building trust. And in the end, we got to a point that she was actually encouraging the engineers to go out there, go to interviews, see what's out there, and see if this is actually the right place for you, or maybe there's something else that motivates you more. And nowadays, they actually inform her that, hey, I'm actually going to an interview in this company tomorrow, so I'll tell you how it went. And then, but none of them actually have left. So, or none, few have, but majority have been continuing with us, because when they've seen that the grass is not actually greener on the other side, so then it's sort of building also deeper connection with the organization, in my opinion, and also deeper trust between the people.
Now, you said that you have a fragmented, business in that sense, that your people are not based in one country, or fragmented workforce. Now, that level of trust, traditionally thinking, requires face-to-face. You have to be at the office. We need to meet each other every day.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, how do you lead a team of, I don't know how many nationalities, which are spread all over the Europe?
Yeah.
And obviously,
not only Europe though, but yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
And obviously, you are able to build trust virtually. You are able to pivot business virtually, and that is something quite many CEOs are struggling with.
Yeah, I think it still sounds a little bit like a cliche, but it still comes back to the trust. So my principle has been that I always start with 100% trust. So if someone is given a job or responsibility area, my starting point is that I 100% trust this person can do it. And this also is something that, in my opinion, people understand, even if you don't say it explicitly, but they see it in everyday actions, that this is how it works. And that also motivates them to actually do a good job, because you have 100% trust, you have your own ownership area, and you basically are responsible to yourself mostly after that. So I think that's one of the key points. Of course, there's like then other things that communication has to be really good internally. So we, for example, have a newsletter coming every month where we explain different topics in a written format, because people consume information in a different way. So we have also all hands, which is more like a presentation. But I, for example, I'm a person I like to read and understand that way rather than watching a video, for example. So those kind of things. And then once a year we have like a 2-day event, which usually is happening in Estonia because it's exotic, and where we get everyone together. So,
What are the challenges, if any, leading a team which is spread in different countries?
well, I think it's clear that there are cultural differences, and those are something that you just have to recognize and respect. And but I think still on a deeper level, we are all humans with hopes and fears, and those are sort of basic principles that everyone's sharing. And then culture is something that's built on top of that. So I would say that it's basically respecting everyone's culture and background, and just being open about it and interested. That I'm super interested personally, and I think that might be also distilling to the rest of the organization. But I'm always asking questions, and maybe too many questions about people's culture and how they do things and how they think. So I think that's probably the key thing, that like just showing that you're interested in them.
What is it in your leadership style? So if I try to summarize it, is of course, like you said, trust, default trust.
Yeah.
Narrative, through narratives or from narratives to numbers. Basically not accepting I know it.
Yeah.
More is like, let's find out whether our hypothesis of something is true. What is it in your leadership style that actually makes it challenging for you? Because I think, like, being the person who's endlessly interested, cares about people, is really gets excited when you see people thrive as you do. What are the hard parts of it? I mean, being purely numbers-driven, distant leader would be actually an easier choice.
Yeah. Would it?
I think for many.
Yeah.
Based on the just looking at how many lead that way.
Yeah. Well, somehow the challenging parts. Yeah. So I definitely am not a person who comes in that I have the answers. I'm rather come in that I only have the questions, and that's why I have all of you here who have ways to figure out the answers. And maybe the sort of challenging part is that when you, because the best day for me is when people come in and say that, hey, I did this thing and it worked out. By the way, I didn't ask for permission. So then I'm like, okay, that's very cool. That's what I like. And so maybe the hard part is that when you like start with this, that I trust you to handle it. You have 100% ownership of your area. And then when it doesn't work out, and then you realize that you have the wrong person in that position, then those are the harder parts, and that also comes down to sort of back to the best management tool out there, which is the mirror. So, so just figuring out and backwards engineer a little bit that how do we get here? And usually, when you think it through, then you also realize that I should have seen this coming. So, but again, it's learning, not a failure.
All right. Talking about the learning or a failure, so many years in the startup scene, you've been dealing with venture capitalists.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just wondering, what is the secret sauce that makes companies successful? So is it you've done it already once, so you know exactly what to do, you still have the learning mindset, but you kind of come in with certain assumptions? Or is it better to just try to find really fresh people? I happen to know that you have slightly different perspective to that question compared to many VCs.
Yeah, so I'm sort of not this might sound weird, but I'm not a big believer in experience as such. I'm rather a believer in having people who have this first principles thinking, that going back to the beginning and figuring out from the get-go that what is it exactly that the problem is, and also seeing how others have solved it, and maybe they've solved it, in your opinion, the wrong way. And that means also that if I would set up another company in the future, I don't think I have anything special compared to others out there, except this, that I know that I don't have the answers, but I just have to go back to the beginning and start basically talking to the people and to people whose problems I'm trying to solve. So maybe like slight thing that might be coming from experience is that you've seen different situations over and over again, and that might help a little bit, but it doesn't help building the business, in my opinion.
Talking about VCs, so we started by saying that you were VC funded.
Yeah.
Now you are in a situation where you are self-sustaining. And you are expanding to new countries, 4 new countries. You also mentioned that the market is very fragmented. So I'm just wondering, what are exactly the future plans in terms of market scope, and how you see Xolo playing a certain part within the European market?
Yeah.
Which now probably is not as efficient as it could be or should be, knowing that there are just so many companies serving quite small customer amounts.
Yeah. So I have 100% belief that there will be one company that will be the market leader, not only in Europe but globally in this domain. And of course, I'm building towards that it will be Xolo in the future. And yes, the market is very fragmented in this domain. So there's a lot of local players in different countries. Usually they are small. Then there's also these mom and pop shops that are serving these customers. And in many cases, because the world is becoming more international, then having a local service actually is not sufficient for many of these customers that we are serving. So my thinking is that, yes, we were VC funded in the past. At the moment, we are profitable, but that doesn't mean that we wouldn't be VC funded in the future, because I see that that now, as we have figured out the fundamentals on how this works, then there's again possibility that, okay, let's see how we can actually roll out this service throughout Europe and then continue to other continents.
Now, concerning your growth plans, you said that there are right now 40 million self-employed.
Yeah.
In your view, what is your assumption of the future of work? How drastically and how fast will the number of self-employed grow?
I've been also quoting this statistic quite a few times. So there's roughly 1 billion knowledge workers in the world, and 80% of them say that they want to become solopreneurs in the future. And this is a reason that I think it's multifaceted in many ways, but like especially people in knowledge work, they want to choose who they work for, fitting their values. I hope in Xolo that our company is fitting our people's values. But in a similar way, they want to choose who they work for, when they work, where they work from, and this kind of freedom requires also new kind of tooling that they can use. So services that actually grow with them and are available anywhere and actually get the job done. So we are also looking at from a perspective that if you're self-employed, you usually 1 day a week for non-billable tasks in your work. So it's business admin, it's client relationships, these kind of things. So if we would actually give you 1 day in a week that you can do billable work, then I think that's pretty big.
Wow. Actually, I didn't know that up to 80% of knowledge workers indirectly say that they are not too happy, or they are not very happy right now the way they work.
Yeah.
The 4 new countries.
Yeah.
Where next?
Yeah. So we'll focus on the major markets in Europe. So we are live now in Spain, Italy, Estonia, which is serving our international customer base also through the e-residency program. And then we have Netherlands, where we are now in beta at the moment. And well, if you just look at the European map, you can see which are the bigger countries. Yeah. So those are the ones that we are looking into.
All right. You're not the startup CEO anymore. I think Xolo obviously is an established business set up many years ago. What you believe are the biggest misconceptions concerning the growth opportunities in Europe, and also employees who you need, or the teams you need to deliver the growth plans? I think there is a lot of pessimism here right now. And when I'm listening to you, it sounds like you're pretty optimistic about the future.
Yeah.
And you also have found people who are definitely contributing to the business, instead of having this "you are welcome" mentality, where you as a CEO sort of feel that, well, people are just here physically present, but they are not giving the brains we need in order to grow the business. So where does your optimism come from?
I think it still comes going back to 1990s, when European Union was set up and opening the borders. And I see actually what we're building in a similar fashion, that this is not a European Union, but like solopreneur union that we sort of want to see in the future, that like borders are just drawn to the map, but actually how I see our customers working, they're working in a borderless fashion almost always. And that's basically where the optimism is coming from, that yes, there's a lot of discussion, and let's not go into politics, but overall, I see that still sort of having the mindset that you can actually work globally and connect with people globally. That's something that resonates with people, whether they admit it or not. But this is, I think, where my optimism is coming from as well. And that's also, in a way, like building the team, is that yes, time zones might make it a little bit more difficult, but it's not like just looking in your neighborhood that who's out there, but looking everywhere who's out there. And especially if people from come from longer distances away and are resonating with your story, then actually it's usually stronger, that connection. So that's what I'm seeing. We have, for example, a person working in the Philippines and super engaged in what we do. So
I think this is a fantastic way to end it, because at the end of the day, the borders are limitations. And what you see is just like, really understanding who is our customer. And it doesn't matter where the customer is, just like who is the optimal employee. It doesn't matter where the employee is.
Yeah.
The point is just to have the perfect fit in terms of customer needs and the product, but also a perfect fit between the mission and the employee's interest.
Yeah.
I didn't actually think about it that when you are expanding your horizon to anywhere and you have a very strong mission, that you sort of by default you probably get more committed employees.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and I think overall, like it's for everyone. It's finding the others who resonate with your story and with what you're building, and that's basically the main job for any company or maybe any person out there, that you have to find the others.
Mikko, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure to have you here in Amsterdam, and good luck for Xolo and your world expansion plans.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.